For decades, the promise was simple: work hard, save your money, and you can build a good life. A house, a family, a secure future. That promise is now broken. We are living through the greatest cost of living crisis in modern history, and the foundations of our society are beginning to crack under the pressure. Let's talk about the big one, the elephant in every room, at every family barbecue. Housing. The Australian property market has become a national obsession, a source of immense wealth for a select few, and a source of crushing despair for everyone else. It is no longer a market for shelter. It is a casino for speculators, fueled by decades of cheap debt and flawed government policies. The numbers are staggering. In cities like Sydney and Melbourne, the median house price has soared to over $1 million. Think about that, $1 million. An ordinary person on an average salary would need to save for decades just for a deposit, let alone service the mortgage. And for what? A modest home in the suburbs, miles away from where they work. This isn't a failure of individual effort. This is a systemic failure. We are told it's a problem of supply and demand, but it's so much more than that. It's a story of how we turned a basic human need into a financial instrument. A story of how our economy became addicted to ever-rising house prices, creating a wealth effect that was really just a debt trap in disguise. Every time interest rates were cut, it wasn't the first home buyer who benefited most. It was the investor adding a 5th, 6th, or 7th property to their portfolio. They were celebrated as savvy investors, while young Australians were told to simply work harder or give up avocado toast. It was a national gaslighting campaign. Now, the bill has come due. With inflation running rampant, the Reserve Bank had no choice but to raise interest rates at the most aggressive pace in history. And in doing so, they have pulled the rug out from under millions of households. Those who stretched themselves to the absolute limit to get into the market are now facing a mortgage cliff. Their repayments have doubled, even tripled in some cases. They are now mortgage prisoners, unable to refinance, unable to sell without a loss, and forced to cut back on everything else: food, fuel, the small joys of life. But it's not just homeowners. The rental market is a humanitarian crisis in plain sight. Vacancy rates are at record lows. For every single available rental, there are dozens of desperate applicants. We've all seen the photos, long queues of people lining up just for the chance to inspect a cramped, overpriced apartment. This is the reality of renting in Australia today. A world of bidding wars for leases, intrusive application processes, and the constant gnawing fear of a no-fault eviction. There is no security, there is no stability. This crisis is hollowing out our cities. Nurses, teachers, hospitality workers, the very people who make our communities function, can no longer afford to live in them. They are being pushed to the fringes, forced into brutal, soul-crushing commutes that steal hours from their day and add even more financial strain. What happens to a society when its essential workers can't afford to live? It collapses, slowly, then all at once. And while housing costs spiral out of control, the price of everything else is right there with it. A simple trip to the supermarket has become a source of stress. The price of groceries has exploded. That weekly shop that used to cost $150 is now $250 or more. You find yourself making choices you never thought you'd have to make, choosing cheaper, less healthy food, putting items back on the shelf. It's a quiet humiliation, a daily reminder that your standard of living is in freefall. Then you get to the petrol station. The numbers on the pump just keep climbing. Filling up the car now feels like a luxury purchase. For those who have to drive for work, it's a crippling expense. Another cut into a budget that has already been sliced to the bone. Electricity bills, insurance premiums, the list goes on. It feels like we are being squeezed from every possible direction. The official inflation numbers don't tell the full story. They don't capture the psychological toll, the constant low-level hum of anxiety, the conversations that stop when the kids walk into the room, the feeling of being trapped with no way out. This is the vibe session the economists are talking about. It's the feeling that no matter how hard you work, the system is rigged against you. And where is the leadership? Our politicians seem to exist in a different reality. They offer platitudes and band-aid solutions that do nothing to address the structural rot. They talk about cost of living relief that amounts to a few $100s, a pittance that is instantly swallowed by the next rent increase or interest rate hike. They are tinkering at the edges of a system that needs to be torn down and rebuilt from the ground up. We are at a breaking point. The social contract has been torn to shreds. The idea that the next generation will be better off than the last is no longer a given. It sounds like a cruel joke. We are creating a two-tiered society, a permanent landlord class and a permanent renter class, a society of the have-bars and the have-nots. This isn't just an economic problem. It's a social and a moral one. It's about what kind of country we want to be. Do we want to be a nation where the only way to get ahead is to be born into wealth or to take on a lifetime of debt? Or do we want to be a nation that rewards hard work, provides genuine opportunity, and ensures that everyone has access to the basic dignities of life? The path we are on is not sustainable. It leads to a darker, more divided, and more unstable future. It leads to a society where hope is extinguished and replaced by resentment. We are seeing the early signs of it already. The rise in social tension, the loss of faith in our institutions, the pervasive sense of doom. Something has to give. This isn't a call for pessimism, it's a call for realism. We have to be honest about the scale of the problem we are facing. We have to stop pretending that a few minor adjustments will fix this. The Australian dream is on life support, and if we don't act decisively, if we don't demand fundamental change, we will be the generation that stood by and watched it die. The time for quiet desperation is over. The time for a national reckoning is now.